You're at a crossroads. Maybe your child is just starting to show signs of needing extra support, or maybe you've known for a while, but now it's urgent, exams are looming, a school move is coming, and suddenly the question becomes unavoidable. Do we pursue a diagnosis or have a diagnosis? Does it open doors or build walls? Will it guarantee support or just give people another box to put your child in? So in this video, I'll dive into the real life pros and cons of using a diagnostic label to advocate for your child within their education. Because once you have one, now what? My name is Brenda and I'm a parent mentor and a fellow parent. I support parents raising children with individual needs and differences to stay empowered whilst they navigate through procedural challenges. I've advocated for my son who is living with autism and ADHD whilst he was navigating through his mainstream education and a specialist independent school. And on this journey, I acknowledge how the perception from others about a child's ability can vary greatly, whether or not their diagnosis is disclosed. And in navigating these challenges, I've also observed several advantages. And the first advantage of being in receipt of a diagnosis is accessing the support and services. It can feel when advocating that it's more likely for a child to qualify for an EHCP, one-to-one support or school accommodations in receipt of a diagnosis. As this helps especially when the urgency to support a child through exams or a change of setting where it's clear that their differences will need to be acknowledged and supported. Therefore, having a diagnosis in place from the onset can be a powerful tool in advocacy, making it significantly easier to unlock the support a child needs when they need it the most. And the second advantage that a diagnosis has is it creates a shared language between professionals. Having a diagnosis creates a shared language that makes it easier to communicate a child's needs clearly across education, health and care settings. And I don't know about you, but in my experience, simply mentioning autism or ADHD often results in a nod of surface level understanding. And over time, I've seen how this growing awareness can lead to quicker engagement and more effective responses. As when professionals are able to get straight to the heart of the matter, the impact can be significant. Without a diagnosis, you may first have to explain what autism or ADHD is and how it affects your child's day-to-day experience, and only then begin to discuss how the professional might offer support. And this takes time, something many appointments simply don't have enough of. And having a diagnosis allows us to bypass the initial explanation and focus the conversation on meaningful, tailored support, making shared language a powerful and time-saving advantage. Another advantage is validation for our children and us as parents. While accessing support and having a shared language is essential, parts of advocating within education, the process of obtaining a diagnosis offers something deeper, and that's clarity. Especially in those early days, a diagnosis can bring a better understanding of how a child experiences and interacts in the world around them, which then provides more insight for us as parents to reduce doubt about how our children may present and create more understanding for others to understand our children in a way that we all understand how they live with their condition. So now let's have a look at what possible disadvantages there could be. And the first one is navigating stigmas and stereotyping. When a child is only seen through the prisms of their diagnosis, it can be extremely disempowering. There's been moments on our journey where I've noticed limitations being placed on my son in terms of what he could access, what he can apply for, not based on fact, but based on assumption. However, I quickly learned that navigating bias and assumptions is unfortunately part of the process, and how staying empowered is an essential part of moving through these challenges to ensure that a child has the best chance to succeed. And the second disadvantage is the likelihood of reduced expectations. Just how stigmas and stereotypes can influence how a child is perceived, it is not unlikely for some to unintentionally lower their academic or social expectations. And I spoke about this in detail in this video here, where I discuss how children identified as having special educational needs or diagnosed are often wrongly assumed to lack high academic potential. Yet the real issue arises when a child is seen as someone who doesn't fit the mould, and this perception can create significant barriers to their learning and development. And this is why showing up to advocate and represent your child is so powerful, as it can challenge these assumptions and make a meaningful difference in the opportunities and outcomes that your child will receive throughout their education. And another disadvantage is internalised identity. Many of the points that I've raised so far refers to the challenges that come from external factors, where how other people will respond to a child's diagnosis. But equally, it's important to consider the internal experience of a child themselves. While I don't speak for every child, I feel it's extremely important to acknowledge how a child might feel once they become aware of how others perceive them after receiving a diagnosis, especially if that diagnosis or having their diagnosis known is not supported whilst they engage within their education. The final disadvantage is process dependency. This is something that I've noticed becoming more of a trend over the years. If a child was clearly having challenges, it naturally prompted others that had a duty of care to support that child, whether through a special educational needs framework or just by making reasonable adjustments. For many families, there is this feeling that they must rely on a formal diagnosis just to access any support at all, rather than being met with a needs-based approach. This shift really shouldn't be the norm, but it seems to have become the status quo. This shift creates more friction and leads to unnecessary dilemmas for parents navigating this journey, and personally I feel it distracts us from our true purpose, which is protecting and guiding our children through their educational experience. And instead of focusing on their individual needs, the process becomes about the system instead. Diagnosis can be a really powerful tool within advocacy, but it's important to recognise that it's only part of a child's story. And I hope this video has helped to recognise the strengths and the challenges that come with it, because my goal is really to highlight the importance of informed decision making for parents, where we are empowered to weigh both the opportunity and the risks and to consider the long-term impact on our child's well-being and development. So if your child already has a diagnosis and is still currently experiencing challenges, why not take a look at this video here, where I explore the question, what next after a diagnosis? Or if you're currently navigating the SEN journey and finding challenges, why not contact me? My details are in the description box below. But for now, keep doing what you're doing, staying focused, stay empowered, and keep creating progress. Thank you for listening.